Welcome to the Adult Chair with Michelle Chalfant. Happy New Year, everybody. I'm Pete Wright, and I'm here, as ever, with the one, the only Michelle Chalfant. Hello.
Hi, Pete. Happy New Year to you as well.
How did you do? What does Michelle Chalfant do on the New Year?
On the New Year or the New Year's Eve?
The New Year. Well, I just, there's this, like, you are so centered, and you have gone through so many of these sort of cycles of revitalization, and so many of us are sitting here kind of on the street corner, sitting on the curb saying, what's my resolution again? I don't want to get any fatter, But what, like, that's me. What do you do? How do you celebrate the new year? I know it's a couple weeks into January. I have literally been wondering this for 2 weeks.
I have actually started out this year with true intentions, versus having ideas in the sky about, I like to lose weight, or I started out saying to myself on New Year's Day, I really have some solid goals that I want to put into place, and I'm going to start them today. And we have to write them down or they will not manifest. So that's how I really did. I swear to you, that's how I started my year.
It seems so easy.
With things like, I want to make sure I'm meditating every single day for 20 minutes. I want to make sure I'm hitting the gym at least 5 days a week. I want to, so you have to write it down or it doesn't manifest. You have to write it down and then read it over every day.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I read a book. In fact, we did this on another show I host. We did a book review of 10% Happier by Dan Harris. Have you read this book?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. It's such a wonderful book. He's just a brief plug for Dan. He is obviously a broadcaster on ABC, and years ago, 2001, he had a panic attack on the air while reading the news. And it was just a really debilitating panic attack, and he had a series of these. Some of them he was able to hide better than others. But over the course of his work as a religion reporter, he had the religion beat for ABC for a while, and ended up running through this litany of thought leaders from Eckhart Tolle to the Dalai Lama, and he chronicles his journey toward discovering that meditation is pretty awesome.
It's amazing.
It is fascinating. So the book is an incredibly quick read. Dan Harris, 10% Happier. If you haven't read it, check it out. It gets exactly to what you're talking about. That just sort of every day, it doesn't cure everything, but 10% happier is a lot better than where you are right now. It's a fantastic. Gives yourself permission to do something nice for yourself.
I agree.
It's beautiful.
Great.
Speaking of doing nice things for yourself. We are talking today about building the best relationship with ourselves.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It's so interesting because we, as human beings, we always look outside of ourselves. We want to build the best relationship with others first. And we can't have that until we look on the inside. As you know, we spend so much time looking for the perfect mate or the perfect partner. And if we have children, then I'll feel better on the inside and all of this.
Right.
We can't have that until we look on the inside first and build a relationship with ourselves. So what I mean by that, and I think I have this written somewhere in my website, but we can't heal ourselves until we know ourselves. We have to get to know all of ourselves. And by that, I mean, what is our child chair all about? What is the adolescent? And then what is the adult chair all about? So that is what I mean by that.
Tell me a story of how that manifests or has manifested for you. How did you learn that this is an important angle of your own personal development?
I looked for happiness on the outside of myself my whole life. And I finally realized that after years and years of not only seeing clients and researching and taking classes and even having my own therapy, that really it is all about looking on the inside. And it wasn't until I looked within and found this model, that's where I started to change, because I had to look inside of myself and realize I had to wake up, basically. I had to live consciously versus unconsciously. And that's how I realized I was living the rest of my life. So when we get in the adult chair, we wake up, we become conscious, and I become aware of what am I thinking and what am I feeling. And when I do that, that's when my whole life changes, because then I can make different choices for my life, different empowered choices for my life. And that's where I started seeing, finally, true lasting change. I realized a lot of the techniques that I was doing with myself they would change me temporarily, and then I'd go back to my old ways. When we learn these chairs and really live with these chairs in our life every single day and become aware of, where am I sitting? Where am I coming from? Am I in that adolescent part? Am I just in my mind and I'm unconscious? Or am I being really mindful and I'm conscious? That is where we find change.
All right. So when we are, I think, when I'm sitting here listening to you, and I imagine others are listening to you talk about this, like it's great. I want to be mindful, but I'm finding myself like, what does that look like practically? What does it look like when I'm really, stuck? How do I know when I'm having I'm in inner turmoil with myself?
How do you know when you're having inner turmoil?
Right. How do I know when I'm unstuck and my relationship with myself is suffering, or when I am stuck? How do I get myself unstuck? What does that look like? And how do I, when I'm feeling like I'm sort of sabotaging my own well-being, how do I break out of that?
The adult chair part of it, when we sit in our adult chair, it's the only part of us that's conscious and the only part of us that can sit in the present moment. And it sorts for just what's fact and true. So if I'm in a chaotic event, or I'm realizing I'm in a pattern that's sabotaging me, and I keep hitting the same dead end over and over again, that's when we have that conscious moment of, well, hold on a second. I'm realizing, and I can't have this realization unless I'm conscious about it. Otherwise, we just kind of repeat it over and over and over again. It's kind of like we wake up to the pattern, and we can notice, hey, hold on a second. I'm noticing that there's this pattern where I keep attracting the same kind of partner, or I keep getting in these jobs and every boss that I have is treating me like this. Why is that happening? Or I keep getting fired, or no matter what I do, I can't bring in money. All of these things are these patterns that happen on the unconscious part of who we are, which is the adolescent part. And if we want to go back, do you want to understand it just a little bit further, if I may just talk about that for a second?
Yes.
Where this comes from is we have to all understand that from the time that we are in utero, our mind is recording every single thing that's happening to us. So go back to the moment of being in your mother's womb. What was going on? Were you wanted? Were you not? Were your parents fighting? Were they not? Were they really happy about having you come? What were the messages that you were receiving? Because everything is recorded. So everything is recorded until, it's always going in there, but really our roadmap for our adult life is based in 0 to 7 years old. So if you received all kind of messages like that you weren't wanted or you weren't good enough, example, if I'm going to use my own example from my own life, my father was so afraid that I was always going to get hurt, sick, or stolen. So he didn't let me go anywhere. I was very, very sheltered growing up. And my mother would want to take me out to the store or the mall or whatever. My dad would say, no. He was afraid I was going to get sick. So all of that, even though he was coming, he loves me so much, he was coming from a place of fear. And it sent the message to me that the world is really unsafe. So guess what that produced with me? Then as I'm growing up and I become a teenager and I'm in my 20s, I'm realizing, oh my gosh, where does this social anxiety come from? I'm afraid. Why am I so afraid? It doesn't make any sense, And I realized that is where it comes from. So once learning these chairs, I'm able now to help myself when I have that anxiety rise up. It just happened actually over the weekend. And how do we use the chairs in this example would be, so when I'm invited to an event, typically what happens is, and it's much less than it ever was, but I have a little bit of anxiety. It used to be overwhelming, but I have like a little bit, and then I can sit in it and I tune in and I ask myself, hold on a second, what am I feeling? I tune into all of those feelings, which then engages that part of us, the tape recorder part of us, 0 to 7 years old. It's the child. And then I can notice, well, hold on a second. I'm feeling I'm going to get judged. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling like I'm not important. I'm not wanted. All of these things from childhood. So then my adult can come in and say, well, hold on. Well, what's true for today at the age that I am today? And that's when everything starts to change and the new programming gets laid in the brain. Does all this make sense?
Yeah, right. So you have to sort of trigger this analytical part of yourself really consciously. Like that's the rule. At some point you have to flip a switch and say, I'm feeling pressured. My emotional response is I'm feeling pressured and fear.
Yes.
And but when you feel that, you have to associate that with a new trigger, which is stop, look around, analyze the truth and the fact of the situation.
It's hitting pause. And what normally happens is, so we have this, excuse me again, I'll have like social anxiety. And then what happens is the adolescent part comes in and tries to talk us out of it. Yeah. Well, you are going to be fine. Do not worry about it. Just go, blah, 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 which doesn't do a damn thing. Like I still would feel so much anxiety because it's mentally trying to talk me out of it. How do you make a lasting change though, a lasting shift? You've got to go underneath the mind and hit the feeling. So that's engaging all of our parts. The child part is the container for our true emotions. The mind is the adolescent. So I also listen to that as she goes on and on about, you don't want to go there, you're going to get judged, blah, 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 blah. And then my adult can come in and go, well, hold on a second. What do I know to be true about this party that you were invited to? Well, out of 20 people, you're going to know 2 of those people. I'd like to meet some new people in this area. So there's another positive. I'm a really nice person. And I know that the girl that invited me is also a nice person. I don't think she's going to invite terrible people to this party. I've already met 2 other people in the past at her parties that I still am friends with today. So as we start talking to ourselves from a conscious place, which is the adult chair, what I realized was all of a sudden I went from the social anxiety place to a place of, I'm really looking forward to this party. I didn't do anything other than sit in my feelings, sit in my thoughts, and decide what's true in the moment for me today and choose a new truth. And you know what it is? It's like updating a computer or your phone. We all have that, like on my iPhone, you have to update it with those iOS updates. That's all that we have to do, but we have to do it to our own brain because we're truly living off of a map that is so old. It's based on things that could have even happened in utero.
Sure.
So that's where all of these beliefs come from that don't serve us. We have negative thoughts that go over and over and over again. They're coming from the adolescent part of who we are. It's the ego. And it's just trying to keep us safe and protect us. So if you think about it, it's trying to do something to help us, but it doesn't serve us. It's not serving us. It doesn't help us to live a true, authentic, balanced life. That's why we need the adult part.
I keep trying to think, what is it that it's serving? It goes back to this sort of Maslow, right? The hierarchy of needs. It's trying to protect us from the very base set of needs that, the sky will eventually begin to fall and we'll lose our shelter and food. And but it's the adult that lives at that emotional well-being level.
Yes.
That has to actually, meter all of these different inputs.
The adult updates our truth.
Yeah.
So if our truth is something bad is going to happen, like you said, the sky is going to fall, our adolescent is based in fear. It's the part of us that is the survivor.
Right.
So it's always on the lookout to keep us safe, no matter what. And it's sorting for all of these things in the environment. And it's going to go back in time. If you think about it, a tape recorder does not have any emotions. It doesn't sort. It doesn't filter, right? Mm-hmm. That's what's going on in our brain from the time we're in utero. It doesn't say, well, come on, your mom really loves you. I mean, come on. It doesn't. It just says, mother said this is the message. But, it's very logical, black and white. There is no emotion that is in input with it.
All right, let's do me now. Only because you gave this example, and now I am terrified to look at my children because I feel like I've already screwed them up so much. So here's what we're going to do. You described your father, right, as the guy who was terrified of you getting hurt, sick, or scared. Well, that's me, right? I constantly feel like I am fighting that with my kids. right? And I'm fighting that response because I on some level, and I'm assuming that's my adult is creeping in there saying, you know what, the world is not that bad of a place,
right?
And it's really, we let these other signals come in. There's always somebody who got robbed that we can think about, or his house got burglarized, or you don't want to leave your kids alone. There are always those stories, but and so your rational self steps in and says, oh, I don't want to put that on my kids. At the same time, I recognize that I'm putting that on my kid. That's the fear that is always in the back of my mind. Right. That something horrible is going to happen if I let them go too far. And now they're getting at that age where they're pushing me to let them go farther and farther. And I want them to continue to do that. But where is that coming from? This terror in myself that I have such a difficult time letting go of. And I should say, I know I'm not alone because the dads that I am with, we talk about this. This is a common thread.
Yeah. Well, I would say then step one, get in touch with what you're feeling. And I know that we're sitting here right now and you're saying, well, I'm just scared.
Yeah.
So then you got to go underneath that. We are always layering emotions. So what's underneath the fear? So when I think about is it both of your kids or just one that you have more fear with?
It's both of my kids. Different reasons, but both of my kids. Okay.
So when I think, this is the question you ask yourself with anything. You can just fill in this blank. So when I think about my kids, when do you have fear that will kick up? When you leave them at this?
Well, we're just at that point now where they're just old enough where we're starting to leave them, by themselves.
Right. Okay. So when I think about leaving my kids home alone, it makes me feel what?
Nervous, certainly nervous. Nervous that they, I start running through all of the things that I want to make sure I've taught them. Right? Do you know how to turn off the stove if you cook something?
So hold on, because you're steering away. You're jumping back in your adolescent chair. I want to keep you in your child.
Okay.
Because now, do you see what just happened? I asked you a question.
I know. And
the mind kicks in because it's so afraid. So there's a lot of emotion underneath your fear.
Yes.
So again, sit in. When I think about my kids being home alone, it makes me feel what emotion comes up?
Fear.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's underneath the fear? What else does it make you feel?
I think I start projecting the what it would be like if something happened to them. If something happened and they were hurt or taken or somehow.
And if that were to happen,
I end up feeling the like incredible sorrow and loneliness and all of those
loneliness,
things. Yeah.
fear. The thing that is coming up for me as I sit with you, and I don't know if this is true, I'm going to make a guess, is it would make me feel really out of control.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's there too. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, does that feel like a dominant emotion?
Yeah, I can see that.
So then go there a little bit deeper. So the thought of when I feel really out of control, it makes me feel.
Yeah, I'm having trouble, because the words that keep coming back to me are like this, just the fear and isolation and loneliness and emptiness.
There you go. Okay. So again, you might not want to do this with me on a podcast, but while you're, I'm happy to. But so when you're tonight or whenever we're done with this podcast, you can spend some time, and I want you to sit in loneliness and emptiness were the two things you just said.
Yeah.
And despair.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So sit in those emotions, because those emotions are what's getting what are being triggered for you. Those are yours, and we have to get to the root. So sit in those emotions and then watch what happens.
Okay. Sitting in them, what does that look like?
It means you can sit in a chair or lay down and just close your eyes and feel despair, feel emptiness, feel lonely, feel these emotions, because the mind comes in and says, yeah, but they may get blah, blah, blah. They may get stolen. Blah, 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 blah. No, that is true. That could happen. But the intensity that you're feeling, this fear, is based on something that has gone on with you.
Yeah.
So we want you to sit into whatever these feelings are that are rising up. When you sit there and you get to the root of those feelings, you're going to have some sort of epiphany or an awareness is what happens. Okay. Then you can decide, okay, then your next question is, so after you sit in those emotions, and imagine as you're sitting there, there's this little boy part of you that's having these feelings. It's the 5-year-old or less within you, or 7-year-old or less within you, that's actually having all of these feelings. So be really gentle with this part of you. He's having all those feelings. Sure. So once you feel those feelings, you might get an image of him in your mind. You can ask that part of you, so what else do you need as you sit in these feelings after you fully feel them? And I mean, you might have a knot in your stomach or a lump in your throat. But what I find happens is when we truly engage in our emotional body, these emotions then can actually release from us and pass through.
Okay.
But we've got to feel them.
Right.
We have to feel them. And the mind says, no, you don't want to feel them. No, no, it's dangerous. No, you're going to die.
Well, that's how easy. Right. And that's how, it's so easy for me to say, well, that's a projection. What I'm doing right now is a projection without really understanding what the projection is.
We're very good at analyzing. But the true changing of the programming comes in sitting in the emotion. So if you were in front of me, I would take you down and I would just say, feel that. Where do you feel that in your body? Oh gosh, my stomach. I just did this with a guy a week ago, this big, huge guy. And he had a block. Mm-hmm. And I just kept saying, well, how does it make you feel? How does this make you feel? And he finally hit it. And he was a changed person in one session. Wow. Just by sitting in his feelings. Then we come up with a new truth, because your truth right now is never leave the kids alone. You're listening to that adolescent party that says it's dangerous. They're going to get hurt. They're going to get stolen. They're going to burn the house down, blah, blah, blah. If you sit in the feeling place, your child place, bring up whatever feeling it is that's in there and allow yourself to feel it, let it pass through. Then your adult is is with you the entire time, but then your adult can come in and say, okay, so then now how do we feel when we think about leaving these kids home alone? What's really true? Well, and your adult may say, like, it's okay to have healthy fear, meaning like, yeah, I'm going to be cautious. I'm going to lock the doors. I'm not going to leave all the windows and doors open. I'm going to maybe set the alarm. I'm going to call every hour, whatever it is. But it comes from this place of being healthy. It's not to say that you're going to lose all of it and be like, no, I'm fine. They can spend the whole week, alone.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But you will feel not anxious about it, not so fearful. You and your wife can actually go out and have a nice meal and not stress the entire time. Mm-hmm. The thing that will be engaged within you is trust. That's what's lacking.
Yeah. And I think what you're, as you describe it, I mean, I'm thinking back to my actual adolescence. Yeah. When I personally did stupid stuff when I was left alone. Like I did stuff that I wouldn't trust me. Yeah. It puts me right back there doing things that I my parents thankfully they did. I mean, I feel like I grew and learned some lessons, but part of what I brought with me was, wow, I did some things that, when I was left to my own devices that were not in my own best interests.
Not good. Right. So this is why we need that adult part to come in and say, well, what's true? What's true about my kids? Yeah. Are they a lot like you? Are they trustworthy? What have they shown you? Yeah, what's different about your kids? Right. But first step to reprogram and to stop the negative thoughts is to engage the emotion.
And I think that's a place, and I don't know if this is a common thing that you see. That's a place that I don't go. Right. I don't sit in that space. I like you said, like you observed. I mean, I very quickly trigger right out of feeling. Yeah. And go straight into the analytical.
Well, we don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
We're not taught that. When we're growing up, we don't know how to do it. So this is new for all of us. And I have a lot of men that will sit with me. They're like, well, men aren't supposed to feel. I'm like, no. That's not true. If you are human, you are meant to feel.
I would reframe that. I think men are meant to feel, and many men just don't know how.
Exactly. But women don't know how either. I used to cry. I used to be a big crier. I used to cry over everything. And I used to think, gosh, I'm so emotional. And no, I wasn't. I just was a crier.
Yeah.
I wasn't feeling all of my emotions. I have not done that until the last few years. Truly bringing up emotion. That has been the one thing that has changed the relationship with me. Mm-hmm. Is that I'm learning how to, people always talk about, I want to feel whole and complete. I want to live in balance, blah, blah. And I want to be authentic. For me, in my journey and all of the trainings and all blah that I've had, this is the way that it has worked for me, is getting in touch with all of my parts. What am I feeling? What am I thinking? And then what's true in this moment?
It's amazing. It's an amazing piece. And I think what you reflected on and what triggered me thinking about this is the extent to which our inability to do this, or our lack of practice in doing this and taking the time to really understand what we were feeling in that moment, our inability to do that impacts others around us at a significant way.
Yes.
That you are still feeling these things from, or have had to go through this reprogramming as a result of the way your father felt toward you.
Yeah.
That hit me sideways. Absolutely sideways.
Yeah. Another example, I had colic for 9 months, and my mother could not get a babysitter. Nobody wanted to stay with me because all that I did was cry 20 hours a day. I mean, you have children, I have children. 20 hours a day for 9 months would have driven me crazy.
Yeah.
And my mom did it. She had to be on, she was on Valium, and it was hard for her. So think about the number of times, and I've asked her about this actually. I said, were there times when I would cry, and you wouldn't come and, change my diaper or whatever I need? She says, oh yeah, I just would need a break because you'd been crying for 8 hours, for months straight. So I'm looking back and I'm like, gosh, how many of my needs were not met? Maybe sometimes I needed a diaper change. I didn't get it. And she wasn't awful to me. And I know that my parents loved me, but when a kid is crying 20 hours every single day, you need a break. So I'm sure of it. Sometimes maybe I just wanted to be held, and she's like, I can't do it. And I get it. As a mom, totally get it. I don't blame her. I get it. However, I think back to what messages that might have sent to me unconsciously. I'm not important. I don't matter. I'm not worthy of love. I don't deserve love. I'm unlovable maybe. Mm-hmm. I mean, all of these messages and emotions got programmed in.
Amazing.
I know. It's really amazing.
It is amazing. Well, we clearly have a lot more to talk about on this. And now I have to go and sit in
practice.
Sit in my sorrow for a little while.
Yeah. And it's not a bad thing. Remember, I heard on that Jill Bolte Taylor one time, I remember said, we only feel a true emotion for 90 seconds. So I'm not saying to sit in it for an hour. We engage a true emotion for no more than 90 seconds. And then the mind will kick in, just like yours did. And it goes, well, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
No, fully sit in your emotion and see your little boy standing there. I mean, see this child part of you. That's who's having the emotion.
I can do that. I can do that, and I will report back.
I promise you, it'll shift you. This really, truly works.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So this really kicks off this kind of, I think, for our 2015 in particular, this discussion on relationships with ourselves, obviously with our kids, with our parents, and with our spouses and partners and associates at work. This is we're going to begin to host more of a conversation about relationships.
Yes,
and that is a real strength of the work that you do with people, and certainly with the couples that meet with you. And so this should be a really interesting conversation, I think.
I'm so excited. I think that, when we learn how to have effective communication and boundaries with other people and learn how to really connect in the heart and from a truthful adult place, it changes our relationships completely. So I'm excited. This is the year of relationships, and I cannot wait.
Excellent. And so, those of you listening, thank you so much for downloading, listening, and subscribing to the show in iTunes or your podcatcher of choice. If you have trouble, if you're new to podcasts, just head over to, you can get to the podcast page by just visiting theadultchair.com. And from there, there is a little, hey, are you new to podcasting link right there on the side. You can click that and it'll walk you through how to listen to the show, how to subscribe to the show, how to rate the show in iTunes, which is a great way to help others discover the show. If your ratings, your 5-star reviews of this show will help other people discover the show when they are looking for support in their most important relationships. So we certainly appreciate that. Please write to us. You can find Michelle at Mich Chalfant on Twitter. That's MICH Chalfant on Twitter, or me at Pete Wright. I was blessed with fewer letters in mine.
I know, it's not fair. And my name is Chalfant, not S. And everyone, Chalfant.
They messed that up, Chalfant.
Totally messed it up. Yeah. It's not my name, it's my husband's.
Oh.
Not fair.
There we go.
But yeah, I would love some questions. So if anyone listening has questions, I would love it. So please send in some questions. Pete, where can they do that?
Well, the easiest way to do that, if you go to theadultchair.com, there are all the social links right on that page. You can find it on. You can just click right there. You don't even have to know the S or the C thing. Just click on Twitter or Facebook. It'll jump you right to our Facebook page. Whatever your social platform of choice, even email, you can just send us an email from there. So that would be the best way, and we will catalog those questions. We'll start taking more questions from you, kind listeners, things that you want to talk about, hear us talk about. We would love your input. So thank you in advance for joining the conversation.
Yes. Thanks, everybody. This was great. Excellent. Loved it. Thanks, Pete.
Thank you. On behalf of Michelle Chalfant, I'm Pete Wright, and we will catch you next week on The Adult Chair.